السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So is my voice loud and clear? الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Once again, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, dear sisters. Any point in time, if you find that the voice is going down or it's breaking, do let me know because there might be some connection issue. But nevertheless, inshallah, it should go smooth. Wait, so we will commence. Inshallah, we don't really want to waste any time waiting for more participants because there is a lot to cover, inshallah, over the next today as well as tomorrow, inshallah. So we will get into it. First of all, I hope and pray that you and your families, all of you, are doing well and are in an increasing state of iman, inshallah. Right. So for today and tomorrow, we will be looking at one of the creations of Allah who are unique and are different in their own way. In fact, all the creation of Allah is different. Humans, animals, birds, trees, you name it, everyone's and every way in which it is, it's different, right? But what we are going to deal with now is the world of the unseen. Okay, because what we see in terms of creation is the seen, we can actually see it. But when it comes to the unseen, and we're talking about the jinns and the angels, all of them are very different in their own way. Though there will be some similarities, as we will see, but then in majority of the ways, even in those similarities, there are dissimilarities. Okay, so before we start, inshallah, two disclaimers. One thing is that certain parts may be a little too bizarre to take, all right, but it honestly depends on the threshold level of each person. For some, the very mention of the topic of jinns or anything of this sort, it will trigger anxiety and an uneasiness, right? While others are able to get through it. So each one's level of tolerance is different. You can decide better for yourself. That's first one. Second one is that we are not here for, let's say, a campfire night with ghost stories. That's not the purpose of this 2 day session that is there. It is only so that we know the deep reality of their world and we are able to protect ourselves. Okay, so that's the main, because only when we are equipped with certain amount of knowledge, we will be able to understand how to deal with it, though not in the complete sense. But like I mentioned in the pre-session message as well, we can at least avoid all the shirk and the disobedience that happens because of this one topic alone. Right? Another thing is, here we are not, if we are under the impression that at the end of the session we will become mini raqis, we will be able to identify if this is a case of sihr, if this is possession, or if this is evil eye, or whatever that is. Yes, of course we will have some understanding of it, but that does not certify us to do ruqya sessions or anything of that sort. All right, please take this as just a knowledge-based session wherein we're trying to understand them so that we are not delving into things which are not appropriate. That's the main aim throughout the session, inshallah. Okay? Right. So, coming to the jinns, our companions, living in a parallel world along with us. Okay? The main problem is that they're not visible, and this causes all the drama around them, be it excitement, fear, superstition, theories, logic. whatever you call it, whatever you name it, whatever it is, they are real, they exist. Okay, they are intelligent, understanding creatures. They know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. They are not just haphazardly moving around doing anything or everything. They know they have a purpose. Okay, they have a very well defined goal behind everything they do. Okay, now there are many who actually deny their existence. Okay, but we cannot live in that world wherein we say that no, it does not exist, because they are living with us, they are along with us even as we speak right now. The only thing, like I said, is we cannot see them. In fact, denying their existence is tantamount to disbelief. So, for all of those people who claim to be super logical and rational in life, know that Allah has informed us of their existence, and denying their presence, in simple words, is saying that Allah is not saying the truth. Na'udhu, right? And this applies basically to everything we deny. Certain things claiming to be rational about it. We, in that process, we are directly accusing Allah of something. So we need to be very, very careful when we deny things that Allah has said that it exists. So, but naturally, the question comes that what is the proof? How do we know that the jinns exist? Of course, we're going to go back to the original source, which is the Quran. So, let alone all the ayat that speak about jinns, there is a whole surah named Jinn, right? And if we have overlooked that fact or whatever it is, then Surah Nas, how 80% of us, or I would comfortably say, I think 95% of us know Surah Nas, right? And what do we recite in it? Min al-jinnati wan nas. So definitely jinns exist. And the Sunnah also is full of proof of about the jinn's existence and so on and so forth. Okay. So with that basic understanding out of the way, let's get into seeing who these invisible creatures are. And we're going to be very honest that we want to know about them because they tend to wreak havoc in our lives. Okay? Because if they didn't do anything, then we wouldn't want to know about them. More or less like the world we live in. We are intrigued and interested to know about the evil more than the good, right? So that's the basic thing over here. There's only facts and realizations that we need to make on the way, and it is all dependent on your experiences as well. Now, going ahead, the root letters of the word jinn. Okay, the root letters, of course, are Reem, Noon, and Nu. Now, what we need to know is that this combination of letters in each and every form, either directly or indirectly, it refers to something which is hidden in a mysterious sense. That's the key over here. All right, it's hidden, but it's hidden in a mysterious sense. So their name, the jinn's name, this is directly related to this characteristic, which is concealed from people's sight. It's ijtinan. Okay, so you've got many ways in which these root letters come together. You've got Jannah, Majnoon, Janeen, Majnan. All of these have some part of it that is concealed, but concealed in a mysterious way. Okay, for Majnoon, what happens? His intellect is covered. For Jannah, we are talking about Allah only knowing its mysteries. No matter how much we try, we do not know about it, right? So if you're talking about Mijnan, the shield, that also comes from the same derivative as it. It's hiding something, it's concealing something in a mysterious way. Okay. Now, the whole point over here is that when we're talking about jinns and all of that, we know that they are hidden from our sight. Okay. But here's where it actually gets interesting, because we are not hidden from their sight. They are watching us all the time. Every minute, every second, they are watching us. And how do we know this? Allah has told us. Surah Araf, ayah number 27, Allah clearly says that He, that is the jinn, they see us. Not only one, all of them. Okay? So in fact, whatever I say today, nothing is from me. All of it is from the Quran, from the Sunnah, from the scholars. So all of that is what is there, which is proven. All right. There is nothing that I'm going to be saying on my own. There is nothing that I'm going to bring in over here today, inshallah. Okay. So the bottom line is we cannot see them, they can see us, but some of Allah's creation, what is on this earth, they can actually see the jinns. Okay, I hope if you wish, you can take notes because it might get a little heavy as we go ahead, or otherwise you can just listen to it, no problem at all if you just want to listen. Okay, so any which ways, it's okay. Now, yeah, so I was saying that if we cannot see them, they can see us, but there is another creation of Allah who can see them, right? And what is this? This creation is nothing but the dogs and the donkeys. Okay, so the hadith is very clear, and it's a Sahih hadith in Musnad Ahmed, wherein if you hear the bark of the dogs or the braying of the donkeys during the night, seek refuge in Allah, say the isti'adha, because they see what you do not see. Now the question is, anything supernatural about that? No. It is, there's nothing supernatural about that. We know that the senses of the animals are differently aligned than us humans. For example, we have nocturnal animals, for example, the bat. They are able to see in the depth of darkness with not even a flicker of light. But as humans, can we do that? We cannot. Okay. Similarly, Allah has given these creatures, which is the dogs and the donkeys, He's given them the ability to see the jinns. In fact, if you carefully study this particular area of the dogs, not much information on the donkeys, but about the dogs quite a bit because they are as pets in most homes. So many instances of dog owners, they report that their dog suddenly at night just starts making some sounds. All right. Out of nowhere, they see that the dog is staring at a specific spot. And when you look there, there is nothing. There's nothing at all right? But suddenly you will find that the dog is barking and its attitude changes. They suddenly become playful. They start tilting their head towards nothingness for us, but for them it is something, right? It's as if they're listening intently to someone, right? We hear or see nothing. And this whole scenario to us, it starts feeling a little creepy. And then suddenly the dog will start barking. And these are all reports that come in, right? So they can see certain things which we cannot see. Okay. So but there's one disclaimer over here. That doesn't mean that anytime we see a dog barking into empty space, we definitely think it's a jinn or so on and so forth. No, there will be other reasons. This is one of the reasons, and this is how we have to take all the points that are being discussed today. This is one of the possibility. All right, since we're talking about this topic, we are bringing in all of those possibilities. Okay, but the easiest way to, like the hadith says itself, seek refuge in Allah, say the isti'adha. And this is a common thing if you've observed this when we're walking on the streets, if dogs are coming at us, right? If you read the isti'adha, automatically you find them distancing from yourself. You can try that. It works. It really works. All right. So, yes, the braying of the braying of the donkeys and the barking of the dogs, all of this is an indication that yes, it is a possibility that they are seeing the jinns. Okay. Another point I would like to add here before we move on, and this is a hadith by Aisha radiallahu anha, wherein she is in her house one day and she finds the two ladies from the Jews. They come to meet her and they tell her that the dead are punished in the graves. Okay, so she did not really believe them. She waited for the Prophet ﷺ. Once the Prophet ﷺ comes in, she asks him that this is what was told to me, so is it true? So he said that yes, what they said is definitely the truth, and the dead are punished. That is, of course, that we know when we learn about the entire resurrection thing, the life of the grave, we know that the dead are punished for whatever reasons. Okay. Now, what happens is that when they are punished, the sound that they make, all right, this dead person, we of course cannot hear it, but the animals can hear it. Okay, and again, bringing in all our experiences together, when we hear the crying of the animals near the graves, why do they do that? Okay, and this is by default for this reason itself. Okay, the animals are sensing it. The animals can hear the cries of the people in the grave. Allah has given it to them. Allah has given them these senses. And again, nothing supernatural about it. Just like we have certain senses which are not there with animals, they have certain senses which we haven't been given. All Allah knows best why. Okay, so that is there. The existence is done. They can see us, we cannot see them. Some creatures can see them. Which are the creatures as well? We're talking about the dogs and the donkeys. Okay, now, next we're going to move into their origin. Now, all of us are aware of this. This is commonly spoken about, nothing new in it. They are created from smokeless fire, and this is the edge of the flame. Please note that it is an edge of the flame, and if you see, it is sure we some way or the other we must have experienced it, that it is the hottest bit, right? But if you pay careful attention, you will also know that this hottest bit of the flame, which is really not visible, right? It's ijtinan, it's concealed. Again, going back to the name, right? This is, subhanAllah, this is one of the infinite and glorious nature of Allah's knowledge, that even the name He chooses for His creation, it is so perfect. No flaws in it. You go in any direction, any tangent, even a remote connection, somehow it will connect you to the character of that creation just through its names. That's it. Okay, so here now, how do we say that they created from scorching fire? Again, we are not saying it on our own. Allah says Himself, Surah Hijr as well as Surah Rahman. Okay, now it says scorching fire in one place and it says smokeless flame of fire. They are not contradicting each other. Like I just said, it is the same thing. They're supporting each other. The smokeless flame of the fire, which is also ijtinan, which is concealed, is the most hot part of the flame. Okay, right. So that is also done. So now we're going to get into when they were created. When were the jinns created? Okay, long, long before mankind was created. In fact, Ibn Kathir, he tends to put a year to it as well. He says around 2000 years before the creation of Adam alayhi salam. The fact is that number isn't important. That doesn't change anything at all. Point in place is that they were created along with the angels way before we were created, again mentioned in the Quran itself, in the same ayah of Surah Hijr, wherein Allah says that they were created before. Okay, and all the Mufassirin have put it that they were created before mankind. So, where did they live earlier, or where do they live now? Do they live up in the heavens or on the earth, or are they in the sea? Because this is another common thing that is said, that they live in the sea. Now, here, two opinions are most common. All right. One is that that is a jinns that was sent to the earth and they created a lot of mischief. So the angels were sent to take care of them. Okay. Another opinion says that they never really lived on the earth. Okay, now in both of these cases, the one that they created mischief and the angels were sent to take them out and so on and so forth, that part stays the same, but the location is unknown. Let's understand that. Okay, so why is there a confusion? Because there is a narration to this effect where Ibn Abbas, he says that the first to reside on the earth were the jinn. Okay, and they spread corruption and the bloodshed in it and killed one another, and Allah sent Iblis with an army of angels, and he fought them until they were forced to settle on islands and mountain tops. Okay, so this is where we have, there is this one opinion where they lived on earth, there is another opinion where they did not live on earth. Okay, but for this particular hadith, Some of the scholars say it is authentic, while the others deny, as they say there is a problem in the isnad, in the chain of transmitters. There is a problem in that, and that's the reason there is this double opinion that is there. Okay, we leave it at that. There is a confusion. You should know that. That's all I'm trying to say. It shouldn't be that, okay, but we thought that they live here. How is it possible that they do not live here? Honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to us at any point. Only that we should know that these um, narrations exist and this contradiction also exists. Okay. Now, the next major confusion about who are the shaitan, iblis, jinn. Are they the one and the same with different names, or are they different entities altogether? So, to make it as simple as possible, let me use a human analogy for this. Okay, so we have got mankind, Adam alayhi salam, and humans. So is there a relation between the three, or are they the same? What is it? Just give me a few answers over here. On chat, of course. We have mankind, Adam alayhi salam, and humans. Are they the same names for one single entity, or are they three different things altogether? The same, okay. They are same. All right. When I say can we give any of them a title as such? So we have mankind, Adam, and human alayhi salam. Now, if you want to draw a relation between them, can we do that? Mankind, Adam alayhi salam, and the humans. How so? So if I have to talk about Adam alayhi salam and mankind, if I have to just draw a relation between them in terms of hierarchy, first human, all right, first human, okay. So what do we usually call Adam alayhi salam in terms of mankind? The father of mankind, right? Yes, Sister Lubna. Right. Okay. So here it's the same thing. All right. Iblis, all right, is the father of the jinn. So you can consider jinns as a whole human race that is there. Okay. And just as Adam alayhi salam is the father of mankind, Iblis is the father of the jinn race per se. Now, what about shaitan then? Whoever rebels against Allah, whoever disobeys Allah, right, is called a shaitan. And that shaitan, the word shaitan, is not necessarily restricted only to the jinns. It's even for the humans, and it's very common in our households, I guess, wherein people just end up saying that if you are not obeying or something, they call you shaitan, literally, right? So here, what we're talking about is the shaitan or the shayateen. They are these rebellious, disobedient ones, and they are from amongst the jinn and the mankind. Okay, but all the jinn, they are the offspring of Iblis. So in this context, the first shaitan, the first entity who was rebellious, the first entity who was disobedient, is our Iblis, Mr. Iblis. Okay? So if you have to make that into a definite noun, like the shaitan, the one that is the you can say the leader of all of them, that's going to be Iblis itself. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of his name, Iblis? Right. So that is derived from the noun Iblas. Now, Iblas is it's something which means despair, remorse, grief. All that is negative, you can talk about it. So, in fact, in Surah An'am, ayah number 44, Allah talks about the word mublisun. So, mublisun is when you are in a state of despair, remorse, grief. All of that is coming from this word Iblas as well. So, the father of the jinn was named Iblis because he despaired from what? He despaired from the mercy of Allah. This is constantly there in the Quran. Okay, so to explain that so Iblis, Shaitan, and Jinn. I hope we're clear on these three, inshallah. Right? Now, to explain shaitan better, or you can say, the jinns, to explain them better, we can look at the different names that are given to them, right? And what I'm talking about, and I always say this, so for the ones who feel like I'm repeating it, sorry, but the Arabic language is extremely rich. And each word, it could be referring to the same thing, will have a new name altogether. So that that word has got not only the noun, but the adjective, the adverb, everything in it, right? So, and that's the reason, if you see, only the Arabic text of books, they will be very thin. But when you're looking at a translation, there will be volumes and volumes because Arabic language is so concise in its meaning. Okay, now for the same reason, for the jinns as well, we have got different names depending on what they do or where they are or where they stay. Okay, or basically with whom they associate themselves with. Now, in the most general form, they are called the jinni. All right, and we have this genie in English, Genie. So that is the same. That is coming from this basically. So jinni, in the most general sense, is we are putting all their forms together and we're talking about jinn in general. Now that's a general reference that we go ahead with. Now, what about those that are living with the people? Now, when I say this, I mean that they live with us at all times. They live in our houses. They don't do anything to us. These are called the Amir. These are the residents. Okay. Is it necessary that they are the good jinns? Is it necessary that they are the Muslim jinns? Not necessary at all. They are just living. This is their space to live. They are living over here. They may or may not do anything to us. Okay. When do these things come into picture now is when we're going to talk about sihr, when we're going to talk about possession, that's when they get activated. You can say now they are in dormant mode. They don't do anything. Okay. Now we have the next one, which is arwa. These are the jinns that attach themselves to the children. Okay, this could be when they are babies, before they become mature, and all of that. These jinns, they will attach themselves to children. Again, dormant unless activated. Let me put it that way. Okay. Shaitan, we're all aware of them, and this is the one that is going to cause harm, right? The minute we use the word shaitan, it means that they are evil and they're going to cause harm. And then we have levels in them, wherein we're talking about Marid, which is the demon, and it is worse than shaitan over here. So we're going to up the levels now. Now, they are also rebellious, they're also defiant. And probably the analogies that you can pull up is in terms of humans. Some humans are rebellious, disobedient, some are at a more larger extent, and then some are at the worst extent, who are none other than the Ifrit. And these are not only evil, they are very strong as well. Very, very strong. Okay. So these are the types of jinns, and these are, of course, living with us, dormant, activated, not activated, and all of those forms. So, yeah. Okay. Now, right. With all of this, just one thing now. What about Iblis? Sorry, Iblis. Is he a jinn or is it an angel? Like when you're talking about jinns, are they Iblis or is there an angel? Are the angel is what the question is. All questions, sisters, I will take it towards the end. All of them, I'll take it towards the end. My question is Iblis or are these jinns, are they angels? That's my question. Sorry. No. Okay. Anyone else feels yes? No. All right. Iblis was jinn. Okay. Right. We are trying to explain that as well logically, which makes sense. Okay. What's our proof? What's our proof explicitly in the Quran that the jinns, they are not angels? Because why am I bringing this up? All of us must be knowing of it anyways, that there is this common confusion, jinn They were angels before, then they disobeyed, and then they became jinns. Allah threw them out, right? So, what is our proof? In which surah? Surah that we read every week? Surah Kahf. All right. In that one of in Surah Kahf, very clearly, ayah number 50. I don't think I have it up on the slides, but ayah number 50. Um, Allah very clearly says that they all prostrated, all right, except Iblis. And Allah also very clearly says that he was not amongst the angels over there. All right, Surah yes, it is there in others as well, but Surah Kahf has got a very clear connotation to the fact that the jinn is not an angel. Okay, now, let's proceed, inshallah. There is quite a lot to cover. We're still on the peripheral level. We haven't really hit the part that is a little depth, but we really need to know about them before we actually understand what they are up to. Okay. Now, the first point that we're going to cover about in our knowledge about the jinns is their appearance. Okay. Now, what about the appearance? What's so different about them, and so on and so forth? How do they look? They're ugly, they are demonic. Okay. Now, everyone's definition of ugly and demonic can vary, but this is how they are. All right. Allah refers to when Allah has to refer to something which is, especially when Allah is talking about the hellfire, we see that they are talking about, Allah is talking about in terms of the devils and how the fruit, its head was as if it is the head of a devil, in not in the right sense, of course, right? Now, the Christians in the Middle Ages, they used to depict the devil. Okay, and how they used to depict is they used to make it look like this black man with pointed beard, raised eyebrows, a mouth which is breathing fire, horns, right, cloven feet, and a tail. This is the description that they have given for a devil, and these are basically the drawings that they used to make as well, right? And they have two horns. Now, which part of it can be actually justifiable, or we can say you can prove it, is that they have two horns. So you have these common animations you see about Shaitan having two horns all the time, right? You have that. So this does have some basis. Anything that is there, usually, sisters, it's never created out of anywhere. There should be some basis. It's only that rest of it is imagination. There will be a starting point. Now, how do we know about the horns? Explicit hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, pray Fajr, then stop praying until the sun has risen. So the whole thing about not praying exactly at sunrise and not praying at after the between Asr until the sun sets, right? Because of the fact that the Prophet ﷺ said the sun rises and sets between the horns of the shaitan, right? And exactly at that point is when the kuffar prostrate to them. So we can pray after the point of sunrise. That is possible, that we can pray, but not exactly at that point. And if you've observed, again, piecing things together, we see that the non-Muslims, they have the habit of bowing down to the sun, complete prostration. And the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith, he clearly says that the kuffar prostrate to the sun at this point in time. And that's why we shouldn't be doing it. Okay. Now, by the way, this horn thing, the two horns, I'm sure we have seen this pose in photographs, right? This is nothing but the sign of the devils. All right. Little things we don't even consciously think about it, but all of this adds up. And that is why Muslims commonly we are told not to use the sign, because this is nothing but the sign of the devils. All right, the sun rising between the two horns of the devils. The two fingers are representing the two horns. That's why we don't really make these signs and so on and so forth, right? Um, see these, just a side note over here. These little things that we do, they add up. These are things that Allah doesn't approve of, right? And in fact, at this point, I want us to think of a person that we're really close to, that really matters to us, right? And that they take care of us a lot. So, would we do anything to upset them? In most likelihood, no, we wouldn't, not even close, right? But here, what we do is we say that we love Allah, we say that we want to obey Allah, we say that we want Allah to bestow us with His favors and so on and so forth. Then we need to also check as to what we are doing. Why is it we are always ending up doing things that are culturally accepted, that are culturally promoted, but Allah has forbidden us from doing it? Right? Simple things. Is it so difficult for us not to strike this pose? Of course not. That's all. All right. So that is the horn. The appearance is from that bit that we are looking at, and this is the hadith that is there. I will be sharing this night. I will also be trying to share a handout that has much more details than what is there in the slides, inshallah. So you want to make your own points. Meanwhile, please do so, because those will be your reflections per se. Okay. Next, what do they eat? Bones on which Bismillah is said. Now, how does this work is when we eat and we have said the Bismillah, right? The bones that we leave, it becomes food for the jinns. And when it falls in their hands, it gets covered with flesh. How how is that even possible? We don't have to know about it. It is what it is. We have been informed about it. We take it. Right? Prophet ﷺ said that you will have every bone on which the name of Allah has mentioned. When it falls into your hand, it will be covered with flesh, and the dung of your camels is fodder for your animals. Okay, so when that is why He has forbidden us from using the bones to clean ourselves. Of course, that is not actually relevant to our times now, but then that is what was relevant to their time. But this is how it is. Okay. Of course, all of this works for the good jinns. Please understand that the bones on which, like we said, we eat the food, we say Bismillah, and the bones that are left, this is for the good jinns. But for the shayateen, just like the shayateen amongst humans, they eat anything and everything. Okay. In fact, the minute you say the Bismillah, the shayateen, the evil ones, cannot have a share of the food. Okay, and here let me just make a mention of eating with the right hand. We must always eat with the right hand, because whenever we eat with the left hand or drink with it, the shaitan has a share of our food, right? So do you think such food will ever be blessed? So always make it a point, even if your right hand is dirty, wash it with a tissue or wash it and then grab your glass of water, because that's what people do. We eat with our right hand, and then when it comes to drinking water or drinking anything, we grab it with our left hand. No, even if you're taking medication, sisters, your tablets, put it in your right hand and then eat it, not with your left. And along the same lines now, eating with the fork and spoon. Is it that I cannot eat with fork and spoons? Why? Because I have to take the fork in the left hand and I have to take the other thing in the right hand. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be that way. Change the sides. Take the fork in the right hand. Cut it out with your left hand. That's it. Doesn't mean that you give up. And because certain places in our times they have dining etiquette. Okay, fine. We will go with it. We're just switching the sides. That's not going to hurt anyone, right? So these are simple things, simple improvisations that we can make in our lives, consciously make them in our lives. But this will only come if we actually want to do it. The bottom line is not that we are not aware of it. The bottom line is that if we really want to do it or not. These changes are not difficult. Right? If we have prioritized a lot in our life, He will make sure that whatever we want to do in these things that seemingly look socially incorrect, we will not feel that burden about it. It will just become easy for us automatically. It's that simple. Okay. All right. Next is intimacy. Okay, jinns do get intimate amongst themselves, right? They have babies as well, by all means. But of course, their procreation is way different in terms of numbers and whatever it is, it's different than ours. Okay. Of course, there are the ayat, there are the sunnah narrations for this and all of that. We don't have to get into it because we're just on a peripheral level covering what do we know about the jinns. Our main focus is going to be the other topics as to how they actually harm us. Okay. Now, what do we know about the reproductive organs and how do they reproduce? Nothing. We do not need to know about it because we don't have to do anything with it. All right. But there is this particular section of their intimacy with humans as well, which we will be dealing with under jinn session. I don't want to cover that over here. Okay. We will move, try to go ahead a little quickly. They are animals. Prophet ﷺ clearly has said many narrations are there that the jinns also have animals. In the hadith that we saw about the food also, they have animals and their animals eat the bones that we, not the bones, sorry, the dung that is there of the cattle. But then they do have animals, and we have commonly heard about the camel, right? And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says that the camel was created from devils, and behind every camel there is a devil. Okay, along with the hadith, and you must be aware of this that we do not pray in the camel's resting place, and if we eat camel meat, we have to do wudu. Now the question is, are the camels jinns, or do they come from the progeny of the jinns? Nothing of that sort. The only thing is, camels are very, very stubborn. Okay, and the Arabs, they call any disobedient creature as a devil, shaitan, jinn. All right. So why is salah forbidden in camel pens? Is that if they get stubborn, or if they get irate, they get so violent that they don't care about who is there or what is there in front of them, and they start running around, literally damaging, hurting the people that are there, right? And so if you're in Salah, of course you cannot, and you risk your life over there being in a camel pen. So that is why avoid being there. And next is for the very fact about uh, uh, doing wudu after eating camel meat is because of their stubborn nature, right? And the angry, stubborn. So when we get angry, also we are advised to do wudu, right? So this is all connected, right? Now, there is also mention of black dog, which turns them evil, and so on. We will look into that. We'll look into that in a while. Okay. Now, moving ahead, speed and strength. Right. Speed and strength. Can you quickly give me two instances from the Quran that speak of their strength or their speed? Any two? Sulaiman alayhi salam, yes. Right. Okay. So it is all about, we are talking about how fast they are, and they are also in terms of their strength. We've seen in the throne of Bilqis, Ifrit said that he would get it, and the distance is more than 2,500 kilometers that we're looking at. Okay. Apart from that, they are also constantly shuttling between the heavens and the earth in split seconds, and we will discuss this further in Sihr, inshallah. All right. Their speed is unimaginable. Their strength is enough to, we cannot comprehend it, basically. All right. So this also explains all of the flying tables and chairs or sofas or whatever it is that we see flying around the rooms in case of a possession case. So all of this is about how strong they are. Further discussions will definitely come up further in possession as well as sihr. Okay. Next is shapeshifters. Now, when we are talking about the jinns, they can shift their shapes. All right. They can, first of all, moving from place to place. That's one more thing that they can do. But the fact is that they can present themselves to us in different forms. Allah said we cannot see them, we take it, but Allah said that they can see us, right? But we cannot see them in their original form. But when they decide to shift from being the smokeless fire into a realm which is visible to our eyes, and Allah has given them the ability to do so, then we can see them. Okay, so in live form, which is visible to us, we can see them as humans, we can see them as animals in the live, literal living forms, all right? But in inanimate forms, they can get into anything. So we're talking about those dolls, these horror movies that they go on with the dolls and all of it, that they just sit there at the top with their eyes wide open, staring down at us, right? They suddenly start blinking. The doll is not blinking, the genie inside of it is blinking, right? So they can occupy any inanimate object. They can do all sorts of weird things. When we have about idols, they occupying idols and the idols doing certain things and all of it. This is nothing but the jinn, nothing else. Okay, and coming to their forms as humans, living and dead, they can take anyone's form. In the living form, we've seen in Battle of Badr how it took the form, Iblis took the form of Suraqa ibn Malik, and then they enticed the whole Quraysh, and he left the field, right? So, and we also know the very common hadith of Ayatul Kursi, wherein Abu Huraira, he said that he's speaking to someone and it turned out that it was a jinn, right? Now, this is also, that's for the living, that is for the inanimate as well. Now, what about the dead? We need to understand that there is no such thing as ghosts, right? Or like people commonly say that their soul isn't at peace and that is why they are just roaming around the earth, wandering around, and so on and so forth. All of this is baseless. Such talks will only come about when you have no clue about what's happening to a soul after a person dies, how it stays in barzakh. Yani, subhanAllah, it's got a whole ordeal on its head now. It's being moved around, and the punishments are in progress. And the last thing on its mind is to come here and scare the living ones, right? This is nothing but the work of the jinns who take the form of the dead and they come to us. Now, these devils may appear in the form of a man, or they may appear in the form of an animal, or otherwise they may appear in the form of a donkey, cow, dog, cat, snake. Most common form that they take is that of a black dog or cat, right? Now, again, that doesn't mean that when we see a black dog, automatically we know that it is a jinn or anything of that sort. But if a black dog has got only one white spot on the forehead, okay, one white spot, you will find many with two white spots. One white spot is a rarity. Then, in most likelihood, if we have nullified all skin diseases, everything in that sort, then in most likelihood it is a jinn. Okay. Now, we will move ahead to certain things that when we talked about the animals, we said that the jinns also can take the form of animals, right? And they come in the form of snakes. Uh, Here, the thing, it is from the hadith. I'm going to just summarize the whole thing. So, it was common in the time of the Prophet ﷺ that in Medina, snakes would come into the house, right? Now, what we need to know, and the hadith also goes on to explain all of that, but I'm just going to extrapolate from it and let you know the rulings that is deduced from it, is that if we find a snake in the house, literally, like I said, certain sections of this entire 2 day thing are going to sound bizarre, but that is what it is, right? So, literally, you are supposed to command the snake to leave the house. Okay. The reason being that it could be a Muslim jinn in the snake. And if it is a Muslim jinn and you end up killing it, it's absolutely not appropriate. It is not right for us to kill the Muslim jinn over there, right? Because it's not doing any harm. It has just slipped into the house. And if it's a Muslim jinn in the snake, it will definitely leave the house. But if it is not a Muslim jinn and it's going to linger over there, then after the third day, the owners of the house, they can go ahead and kill the snake. Okay, so there is an exception, of course. All right. If you see a snake which is short-tailed or multi-tailed snake or with two white lines on its back and so on and so forth, because the one with the two white lines on its back, this is the one known for causing miscarriages and loss of vision and so on and so forth. And in that case, there is no exception. You're not supposed to talk to the snake and so on and so forth. Just go ahead and kill it. Okay. So like I said in the handout, I'll just put out the whole hadith so that you can have a read and you can see the whole thing. But then the jinns do take the form of the snakes. And closely related to this, again, mapping it to our experiences, we have, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but I've heard a lot of people saying that they killed a snake, and the person who killed the snake actually died soon after, or they had some deformities, or their skin started peeling off, and so on and so forth. All right. So it all goes back to this, that in case the snake was a snake in which there is a jinn or anything of that sort, you have all of these happening because the jinn is not going to let you be there. It's going to come back for revenge, like we will see in possession. Okay, so far this was all about who they are, what are their characteristics, what are they capable of. Are we all clear so far? We good? Can we proceed? Okay. All right, I'll take that as a yes, and we can proceed. So, with all of this knowledge about the jinns, we can now basically enter into the world that belongs to them and understand why they do what they do with us. Who is behind it all? What do they gain from it? What is their driving force, and so on and so forth. Okay, but to even begin with, what's their problem? Why this enmity? Why this hatred towards us? What have we done to them? Let's hear it directly from what they have to say, as Allah has narrated it to us. Very, very simple reason. Iblis's ego was hurt. His pride was crushed. His self-esteem dropped to because and somehow that made him disbelieve in Allah. Right? And this is we are not talking about see, we need to understand over here. Iblis was in constant audience of Allah. Right? He was actually seeing Allah. He was in the presence of Allah, yet he disobeyed Allah and he was thrown out of Jannah, double humiliation. So, what's the reaction? Revenge. I will take revenge from the person who caused me to be in this state. Right now, this is his understanding was that as humans, we caused him to be in this state. But he does not realize, if he does not realize that his own arrogance caused his downfall, right? Completely off track, but totally relevant. If we are stunned at Iblis for what he did and how could he disobey Allah when Allah is right there and so on and so forth, we also need to stop and think about certain things because we too do it. We may not be seeing Allah day in and out, but we are witnessing His signs, we are witnessing His favors upon us, right? So, to put it in the simplest form ever, both Adam alayhi salam and Iblis were thrown out of Jannah. One chose repentance, the other chose arrogance and revenge. One chose to go on to the right path. Think of it in terms of the trials and the tests that we face. All right, we have two paths to take then. We either go on to the path of repentance and see it as a way that Allah is telling us to leave all of that and come back to Him in the right way, or otherwise we become arrogant and we ignore. So we really need to decide whose path do we want to embark on. Okay. Now, there are many ways. There are many ways in which Iblis gets his job done, how he flows in our blood, how he puts waswasa in our minds, and so on and so forth. And this is the part that most of us are aware of, right? We will not get into those because those will somehow come into the other topics that we're discussing. But we will look into three major aspects over the next today and tomorrow, which is sihr, possession, and evil eye. Okay, these are the main three things that we will be covering. And to begin with, we're going to look at sihr. And when we talk about sihr, we're talking about magic. Magic as in black magic. That's what we're going to be referring to. Now, again, just as how jinns are real, just as how we are real, sihr is also real. Okay. Two, there are again number of sources to prove this, but then we are just going to look at two things. One is the ayah from Surah Baqarah, in which we have Sulaiman alayhi salam. Allah is actually talking about how Sulaiman alayhi salam was sent these two angels who taught magic. Okay, now though I'm not going to get into depth of the tafsir of this ayah and so on, but then all we need to know is that Allah sent this magic as a test. It in no way supports the fact that magic is allowed. Okay, that is another common misconception for those who want um, to take other meanings from the ayat. It is not that Allah is supporting. Allah Himself says in the ayah that it was sent as a test. Okay, and of course, the next one that we know is from the Sunnah itself, wherein our Prophet ﷺ himself was afflicted with magic. Okay, and it was done by the Jew, and the story most of us are aware of. I don't want to get into that. Now, when we are in very general terms also, we refer to it as they had such a magical time together. Words can also be magics because Allah says in the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ says in the Hadith that some speeches are forms of sahra, they're magic, right? What does that mean? It causes the person to be so influenced that they forget reality. And this is the underlying effect of the word magic itself. And when this reference is made in the Quran, for example, in English, when we talk about it in English, we may refer to it in a positive sense as well. But in the Quran, the connotation is always negative. That is, beware of such people. Right? Now, what is like jinn in a very linguistic term? It means something which is hidden or concealed. Sihr is something which is caused by subtle hidden forces. You cannot really see it, you cannot really identify it, but you can always feel it. Okay. Now, magic is broadly seen under two rugs. And pay very careful attention over here. One falls under tricks, illusions, and other stuff, all right, and the other is hardcore black magic. Now, what we will discuss is, of course, the latter, because tricks, illusions, and the street side stuff that we see, that really doesn't fall under the topic of magic. These are illusions. These are tricks of hands, right? Illusions of the eye. For this type of magic, the ruling of kufr, it doesn't apply. Be very careful of that, all right? If you see someone doing these tricks and say that now you are a kafir or something of that sort, no, that doesn't apply for such silly stuff, right? So if that's the case, then is it allowed for us to watch or even indulge in such stuff? So can I watch a magic show? Can I do just a little trick with my hand or something of that sort? Now the scholars are divided on this. You can say the more classical scholars do not really appreciate it. They do not allow it per se. It's an ijtihad that they do. It's not a ruling per se, but it's an ijtihad. So, but then there is another group of scholars who says that but seeing it occasionally and just randomly doing it is all right. Okay, but what seems more befitting is that stay away from doubtful areas. Who knows what this fascination may lead to? right? It always starts small. That's what we say. Anything and everything, it starts small. Take it, for example, the Harry Potter craze that is there. There's so many of them who have actually ventured into the world of dark arts. And don't take it from me, you can look it up on your own. Literally into the world of the jinns from just this entire fascination that people have with Harry Potter. And it's there in the Muslim community as well. Everyone says that it's just a movie, it's just a book. What's the big deal of that? There's no harm in it. Yes, on its own, probably there is no harm in it. But what can it lead to? That's the question that we need to answer, right? Now, for the actual deal, that is black magic itself, if there is sihr, there is jinn. Please understand that. Actual black magic cannot be done by an individual on their own without the help of jinn. They have to be in the equation for it to be complete. Okay, now we are going to look into types of magic, how they are done, what are the symptoms of each type as such. All right, so that we will try to cover in today's section, and then inshallah tomorrow we will look into possession, evil, and so on and so forth. Depends on how fast we're able to go. Okay, now the different types of magic. We will start with something which is called habal. It is dim-wittedness, wherein these are the states basically that you're put into because of the magic. All right. You will find a lot of terms coming in. Am I supposed to know those terms? No, that's not the purpose of this whole thing. We're not trying to understand or learn these terms or anything of that sort. We're trying to understand the effect that it has on us. That's the main point over here. Then we have something called hubble, which is confusion. Next is ahad, which is stupidity. And these all are mind games, all right? They actually affect the mind of that affected person. Okay. Now there is another that hubble as well as ahad, they cause this kind of a behavior in that particular person. All right. Now there is another kind called the sihr al-jawarih wal-ada. Now this is of the limbs and the magic of the limbs as well as the organs. All right, this does not affect the mind. Your mind is perfectly sound in this, no issues at all, but it is going to affect your organs, be it the hands, be it the legs, be it your speech, be it your vision. It could be even your internal organs. All right, it's just dying down your private parts. All right, and this is the type. So Jawara is the type that affected the Prophet ﷺ, wherein his mind was not affected, and that's the main thing that we say because his mind cannot be affected. He was bringing the Quran to us, right? But his actions, he was not quite sure about certain things that he did, and so on. His actions were affected, not his mind. Okay, so these are the different states of the magic that we can be thrown into. Okay, now how is it caused? Like I said, by jinns, of course, but there must be a middleman. If the jinn is trying to bother you without a middleman, and many have this question, what's the difference after all between magic and possession? All right. If there is a middleman, it is magic. If there is no middleman and the jinn decides to bother you on its own, then it's possession. Okay, we will deal with that later, but today it's only magic, right? So, the middleman, who is the middleman? Of course, the magician. Okay, but he is going to be the first middleman over here. What does this magician have to do with you anyways? I mean, if he or she does not know you, why would they want to harm you, right? So there has to be someone asking this magician to do something to you. So here's the second middleman who's starting the whole process. So you are placed under the effect of black magic by someone because they want something taken away from you, or they want something to be done to you, anything. It could be any reason. And this is done how? Through the magician. Okay. Now, how does the magician do it? What's the connection between the magician and the jinn? How does this work? The two are in a contract. That I'm not just using the term just because it can be used. This is what they are into. Terms and conditions apply between the jinn and the magician. They are in the proper contract, and the boss of this contract is the jinn, not the magician. Right? The magician appears to be in control to humankind. But what the magician does not tell to the human is their connection with the jinn world and what they are doing so that they can have this entire magic in place. Okay, because this task, what they are going to do, cannot be done by any human. Absolutely not. It requires supernatural powers, right? It requires a supernatural entity. Okay, now we know that the jinn does it. Uh, the jinn and the magician are in a contract, they do it, but how does a normal human being interact or call a person, an entity from the world which is invisible, from the unseen world, right? Now, there are 8 main ways in which this is done. Again, you don't have to really know all of these terms and what do they mean. If you are interested to that level, you can make a note of it. If not, just understand how it affects us. Okay. Now, what is Iqsam? Now, in Iqsam, basically, it is the Sahir. The Sahir is nothing but the magician over here. They are swearing by the chief of the demon. Now, for all of these callings, you can say, they have to be certain settings. I mean, I can't just sit in a normal, regular way and try to call them. That doesn't work like that. So, in case of Iqsam, the Sahir is in a dark room, which is you've got this incense, good smell all around, right? But then the smell of this incense also depends on the task which is at hand. Okay. Now, suppose if the task that is given to this magician is to create animosity between a couple, all right, or otherwise other kind of such evil. So in that case, it has to be an awful smell. Okay, it can't be a good smell, it has to be an awful smell. However, if the magic is to create love between people, then it should be a good smelling incense that is there. Okay, so now what happens is that the magician in this state, after doing the setting up of the room and all of that, the magician has to start reciting his spells or his incantations, and these are heavy with shirk elements in it, absolute disbelief, right? And also for this, for the sitting of this person, this magician, the sahir, who has to call this jinn, they have to be in a very filthy state, very filthy state. Okay, sometimes they have to be in a state of janaba as well. Now, it does not happen in one sitting. Like I sit now and I do all of this, and now the jinn comes. No, it can take place even after like 40 days, 50 days, it could be lesser as well, say 6 days or something of that sort. And then you have the person sitting down and then reciting these spells, and then the jinn makes itself visible and so on and so forth. Okay, so the duration, it depends on how the sahir does it, what it does, and to what extent. And when finally the jinn is pleased with this act, he will appear before the sahir. Okay, so it could be now this appearance before the sahir, again, it's completely dependent on the jinn, how they want to appear in front of them. They could just come in the form of an animal. The jinn appears in the form of an animal in the same room that the sahir is sitting, or otherwise they just make sounds or they move things around that so that the sahir knows that the jinn has come. Okay, if you again think back into all of those horror things that people show, it has a basis. This actually happens in this way. Okay. Then the Sahir will instruct the jinn on what is to be done. Sometimes the magicians will have garment or hair or whatever. That will look in the next part as to what is required. But this is the way they establish the contact over here in this case. Okay. Now, the next method, as the name itself goes, is zahib. Here is where you're slaughtering an animal. Okay, you can be slaughtering a chicken or a pigeon or any animal with certain specifications, again, based on what task has to be done. Okay, now usually the animal should be black because jinns prefer black things. All of their evilness is taken into the black things. So that is why they prefer the things that are black. Okay. Now, of course, the slaughter also has certain conditions, as we all would be knowing. Is without the name of Allah, then he has to slaughter that particular thing without the name of Allah, and then throw that in a well or in a deserted place or some way of the other. Okay, so all of this without mentioning the name of Allah, and then he returns, performs again his incantations, his spell reading, and all of that, so that the jinn can then present itself. Now, the jinn presenting itself, that stays the same in the different ways that we spoke about. For the first one, they come in that way. Okay, now Sufliya. This is perhaps the worst kinds for us, basically, wherein the Sahir now, he is not having one jinn at his disposal. The Sahir is having the whole troop of jinns at his disposal, not just one responding, the whole group is responding. Okay. Uh, I think at this point, we need to also know that jinns also have leaders amongst them. All right. So when you are saying that someone is afflicted by magic or the jinns are working, sometimes you call the leader, then the leader of the jinns will send its other jinns who are there in its team. Let me put it that way. They will send the members in its team to do the job. And how do we know this? When the Raqis do Ruqya and the jinn presents itself, it says that I cannot leave from here because the master jinn is going to kill me if I leave without completing the job. Right? So that is why how we get to know that they are working in a coordinated manner. Okay, coming to Sufliya, here if you have a whole army of jinns coming to help you, of course you're supposed to go down deeper into the mess, right? So here we're talking about the Sahir who has to wear the Quran on its feet, on the feet, and they're going to wear the Quran as sandals, as shoes, right? And they walk into the washroom, and he will sit, the Sahir, he or she, they will sit and they will recite the incantations in the washroom itself, and their spells and whatever it is. Okay, then he or she. Please understand that the Sahir not necessarily is always a man; it can be a lady as well. Okay, so after they've done their reading, they come out and they summon the jinn. Of course, seeing the level of what the Sahir has done, they actually come to help sometimes immediately. Okay, now this kind of Sahir should be extremely vulgar in his actions as well. So we're talking about ridiculing Islam, mocking Islam in front in his incantations. Also, he's mocking Islam. He should have committed incest. He should have committed a homosexual act or should have slept with a complete stranger, something of that sort. And he should remain consistently in that stage, right? So you can see the level the Sahir stoops um, to call on to the jinn, and looking at how much of an extent of power you need, that's the level you go deeper down. Okay. Next is Najasa here. Okay. This again is wherein we are the Sahir is writing the verses of the Quran with filth. When we talk about filth, we are even talking about filthy fluids. We're talking about the menses discharge and all of that. Okay, and these are things that make the jinn happy. These are things that show the jinn that this person is ready to do anything for me, right? And that is why they start complying. Okay, because these are levels to which, honestly, a person in his or her right mind would really not get into. This is what sometimes that desire for power, desire for fame, desire for wealth can drive you into. Tankias is basically you're anagrammatizing the words of the Quran. You're writing the words backward. okay? And you're reciting the Quranic ayat backward as well, absolutely ridiculing the Quran in this way. And here, I would just like to mention, when we talk about ta'weez, when we talk about these, these things about, well, usually the Turkish have this a lot, the evil eye, the blue eye, or that, and the hand also, which is with it. We see the ayah. We do not see. Our problem is that for most of us who do not know Arabic, we are not able to read it and see if it's an actual ayah or the words have been messed up or have they put in the reverse order, right? So it's very easy for people, and these amulets and these ta'weez, all of them have this stuff. And this is how, when we go to these people seeking all of these amulets and these charms and all of it, they are not giving it us to protect us. It is for us to get under their control. And there we are lifelong bound to them then. They will show us phases where things become better, things go down. What do? We go to the person who gave this to us because he knows how to take it away from us, right? So these are the ways in which they actually get in touch with the jinns. Next is Tanjim, or is also called a rust. Now, this is a little different in the sense that the Sahir is communicating with a certain star alone. Okay, Tanjim comes from Najm. Now, when he sees the star, he starts his incantations. Now, in this case, the jinn, it does not appear in the form of a demon or so. It is going to appear in the form of a spirit of that star. And the problem with this kind of magic is that if you want to undo it, you cannot undo it unless and until that star reappears. And once that star reappears also, that jinn has to communicate with the star. Right? So these are things, sometimes we say that there is sihr, it doesn't seem to go, it's there for a long time, eventually caused to death. You don't know which type of sihr has been done. Of course, the Rockies will have an idea, but then if it's a dead end like this, then the person is stuck for life, right? No, kafur is where you're using a child over here. Okay, what you do is that you need a young child over here who is not bothered. You take this young child and you have to bring this child who is not in a state of wudu also. Anything, of course, that is over here goes without saying. You cannot be in a state of tahara at all. Now, here, on the hand of the child, the sahir will put oil and will they use blue ink also, okay, to draw. Now, again, if you try to recollect, you will see that the charms mostly are blue in color, be it those Turkish charms or anything of that sort. Those are blue in color, all right? Coming back over here, they will draw in blue ink, all right, and they will put that cloth. There's a cloth that they put, a paper or cloth kind of thing, they put on the child's head and they try to keep so that the child cannot see anything. It's complete darkness. Then they put a sack over the child's head. And now the Sahir goes on reading, keeps on reading that his incantations, the spells, and so on and so forth, till the child starts seeing some kind of light. When this child starts seeing this light, it is basically an indication that the jinn has responded to the Sahir. And now, whatever objects are drawn on the child's hand, they start moving. The child is able to tell the Sahir, okay, now this has moved from this point to this point, and so on. It is usually the type of sihr is used when, some people have this thing that if an object is lost, they are able to tell you where exactly it is and how it is over there. This is again another type of magic that comes into play. Okay, or otherwise they will also say that if there is a missing person, I see this person, where is this person, how to get about to his whereabouts, the jinn is actually showing it to the sahir through the child. Okay, so this is that one. And then the last one over here is athar, which is the traces of the smell of sweat in the garment. Again, um, uh, I think most of it that I've told so far, in some bits or the other, it always comes up either in the ruqya part of it or otherwise in the affliction part of it. Somewhere or the other, we must have heard about it. Now, here, it is basically you take a handkerchief or you take this garment that is there, and then you tie a knot on it, and the sahir actually recites surah, right? A surah from the Quran in the actual form. You're not messing it up. In the actual form, you're reciting the surah from the Quran, and then followed by a spell, followed by an incantation. Okay, so in this case now, if the patient's illness, okay, so here this type of sihr is basically trying to identify if another sihr is done, another kind of sihr on the person, all right. So if this cloth piece now, there are certain lengths, if it becomes shorter, it shows that the illness is being caused by a jinn. If it becomes longer, then it is not the case, or something of that sort, all right. So this is more so you're trying to figure out what if there is another sihr done on another person using the help of jinn itself. Okay. All right. So these are the ways in which they tend to call them up. All right. Now, if you have observed all through, right, you will see that we are constantly going back to the challenge that Iblis made to Allah. Here you will see how the Sahir has reduced himself to the most lowly form, right? And this is what the Iblis wants. This is what the challenge that Iblis made to Allah. So if this thing is made of clay, why should I even prostrate to it? I'm made of fire, right? So here now, if you look at the last two ways also, these are two ways in which the Rakis, they will recite the Quran, they will make you feel as if they are authentic and so on. But at the end of the day, they're nothing but calling on to the jinns. Okay, tomorrow's session we'll also look at Rakis and how we can identify them and so on. We'll look at that also. Okay, and now of the other conditions that the sorcerer must fulfill is that absolute no performance of salah, no act of obedience, nothing of that sort. Okay, now we have discussed just 8 ways. There could be 100 more ways in which the Sahel contacts jinn and what is expected. And from where do we get all of this? That's the major question. I mean, how do we even know that these things exist? The jinns themselves have told about this when the Raqis, they do ruqya, and we're talking about authentic Raqis over here. When they do ruqya, the jinns reveal a lot of information, a lot of information, especially those jinns who do not really want to stay in the body, but they are there by force. That's when they start ending up saying, giving a lot of information. Okay. Um, in the jinns, sorry, in the sahirs as well, we have levels. So in order to establish contact with the jinns, the magicians have to go on, some have to go on even for 40 days, like I mentioned earlier. Some have to go on for um, even months together. All right. So they have to, when you're talking about the state of the sahirs over here, they have to urinate, defecate, everything in the same room. When I'm talking about 40 days, I'm talking about 50 days. It's not that you go in and out of this room. You stay inside that room for that whole time, right? And in that process, you are also urinating on the Quran and you are doing all sorts of things. There are levels. So if you do certain things, then you become like, you can say you get graduate level qualifications. But then if you go up to a higher level, then you get PhD level of qualifications. It depends on how low are you ready to go. That's it. Okay. Underlying theme of all of these acts, kufr, disbelief, without a doubt. Now, does it justify the fact that we say that the Sahel has literally been taken out of the folds of Islam if you are basically a Sahel? Because look at the lens they have to go to, right? And so the main question is why? I mean, why is the jinn giving in to the Sahel? jinn is getting what it wanted. It is proving at every point that, see, this is your creation. Challenge to Allah. This is your creation. I told you I will sit in their path, I will deviate them, and you will not find most of them grateful. And that's exactly what's happening. When Allah has given us everything, and Allah is saying that you rely only on me, yet we want to go and knock on the doors of the supernatural, the one that Allah has thrown out of Jannah. Right? So for this extraordinary act of disbelief done by the Sahir, what the jinn has to do in return is nothing. I mean, we've seen the abilities of the jinn. What they ask to do is absolutely nothing. They can do it just like that. Okay, and all of these things about the pentagram boards, the Ouija boards, voodoo dolls, all of this is real. It is valid. It is required by the Sahir to do it. You know, it's not something that can just be waved off, especially our teenagers, young children. They are, it's just for the sake of it, just for fun. You know, they start having these. Some have these dolls, or some have even these boards, the pentagram boards, and all of it. We need to educate them, because once they think that this is nothing's going to happen, it's just some adrenaline rush and all of that. It is not that. If the connection is established, all hell will break loose, because then going back from it is literally impossible. Okay, now, all right, so far are we good, everyone? All good? Do we, because we're going to get into another set of um, sihr, and we are also going to look into how do you identify sihr. Okay, fine. I will do all of those things, like I said, questions, everything towards the end, because most of it would already be covered, and then we get it. Okay, 5 minutes break. Anyone wants 5 minutes break? Yes. Okay. 5 minutes break. Can I have more? No. Okay. I think sisters, the ones, please go ahead and offer salah and come. Because anyways, we'll be closing in half an hour for the main session, and after that we'll follow with questions. The recording will be available, so you can come back and catch up on the missed part. All right. Okay. All right. Now, why is it done? Okay. Plethora of reasons. Remember, we spoke about two middlemen, right? Now, each one has got there are different reasons. We're going to look at so many ways now, so many reasons as to why it is done. Each one has got a unique set of symptoms and a treatment plan as well. Okay, now am I going to go into all of the treatment plans and everything? Absolutely not. We are not doing a program over here that is going to certify us to be Rockies or anything of that sort. No, it's just information based. It is for our information and for helping us to steer away from all of these the shirk elements that are there out there. That's the only reason. We need to understand that. Okay. Now, as we go through these reasons and all of it, I need you to think of all the stories we hear of the Rockies and their demands. Start piecing everything together. Okay, what's the first one? Sihr at-Tafriq. Now we're talking about the whys. Remember that, okay? Previously, we spoke about what are the ways in which the Sahir contact the jinns, and they establish contact, and they get into the contract. But now we're looking at why. Who is this middleman over here, and what are they doing, and how do they do what they do, right? Sihr at-Tafriq, this is of separation between anything and everything over here. All right. It is done by using the mother's name. Okay. The Raki is always asking us the mother's name. Sweaty garments, bring some cloth or something of the person that you want to free away from this, right? Or water is spilled in the person's way out of nowhere. All right. The minute the person crosses that water or something that has been kept for it, the sihr has affected it. All right. If you take something from the if you take something from the person who you want to afflict with this, then that would start off immediately. Otherwise, you cannot take something, and this happens in cases wherein you're not quite related to the person, but you want them to be affected to such an extent that you go to a sahir to do it. So you just throw water on the path, which is of course recited by the sahir, and then the person causes it, and it affects him. Okay, now what are the symptoms of this kind of Sahara Tafriq? What happens to a person? They have sudden changes in attitude from love to sudden hate. Just imagine a person is um, totally your best person out there, and the next day they are a totally different person. They can't stand the sight of you, right? Now, for no reason, suspecting anything that is causing rifts, basically, right? Between two, it could be between a couple, it could be between siblings, it could be between friends, it could be between even in terms of employment. All right, if you see that things are going really well between the boss and the employee, let's try to do something and mess it up so that they don't have their job anymore. Okay, it could be between the parents and the children, right? So no, there is a lot of suspicion, no excuses. I mean, you're not ready to give this person who you love so much, you're not able to give him the benefit of doubt as well. I mean, at times you're yourself stunned at what you're doing. You can't understand it. Why am I doing this? Right? You it must be a matter of absolute insignificance, but you blow it out of proportion for no reason, right? And you constantly pinpoint on that and try to you you're just changing the entire relation. Okay, anything and everything the other person does, you hate it. Even if they were to breathe, you can say you hate it. Why are you breathing so loudly? Right now, let us all take this in this way that there are certain parts which is a characteristic of a person, but sometimes these changes come overnight. That's the biggest indication, when overnight things change without any reason. Okay, so sihr tafriq is causing separation. This is the sihr that has been caused. The way that is done also is different. Now, sihr tafriq, like I said, you have to get those sweaty garments or something of that sort, and then it will be done. Now, sihr al-mahabba, this is, as the name goes, most commonly between couples. All right. Again, here we are using, you need the person's scent over here. In the other case, you needed the sweat. Here, you need the scent. Okay. So if it's a wife doing it on the husband, she needs something of the husband which carries his scent. Okay. Or otherwise, the water that the person drinks or something of that sort. Uh, you can go to a very low level over here, wherein if it's a lady who's doing it, or even if it's a man who's doing it, you can have to get it off a lady then. You take your menses discharge that is there, dry it, powder it, and then that is put in the food or the drink or the perfume of the other spouse. Okay, so you can, or this, if it's the case of you're doing it in case of spouse, or otherwise it could be any other relation that you're looking at. And in fact, this one, Sihr al Mahabba, is something that I have witnessed alive in my family itself. All right, when I'm talking about my family, not my immediate family, but some uh, yeah, I mean, we know them really well, right? So here, newly married couple, the wife wanted the husband for herself entirely. I mean, she didn't want the husband to even interact much with his siblings or otherwise the mother or any other person. All right, it is basically you reach obsession levels. So she resorted to magic for this, and how was this done? Is here she used her menses blood. So she had a Saharan pitcher, and she takes this menses blood for the spell. Of course, these are the demands made by the Sahir, and dried and powdered, and she would actually keep it and feed her husband 1 teaspoon a day. All right. The mother-in-law, she kept asking her that what is this, and she said no, it's some herb, it's required for him, and it will make him, it's just basically for cleansing is what she gave some other reason or the other. Okay. The mother-in-law started observing changes in the son because the son wasn't really like that before, in the sense that he is completely smitten by his wife. Now it's very natural for young couples to be smitten with each other and all of that, but then this was a little different, way too different. Okay. Uh, Anything, every time with her, never speaking to anyone else, and at the same time he was uneasy, right? He there were changes in his behavior, which what his mother said is that it wasn't, we couldn't define it, we didn't know what was happening. All right. So we need to understand that these sihr that is done, they have got side effects as well. Okay. In this case, what happened is that the more she kept feeding him that, the more there were changes in his behavior, of course, not only for herself, wherein he was over the top attracted to her, but then uh, his behavior started changing. All right. Not towards her, but others, in himself also, sweating, uneasiness, all these kinds of things, to the extent, and this is the worst possible side effect, is that he even got intimate with this girl's, his wife's sister. All right. So we are looking at the side effects now when it's prolonged. It's totally occupying your mind. It's totally taking you over. And we need to understand that this is a jinn in action, and the jinns don't have any boundaries. None at all. Anything that you do that is going to take you away from the realm of Islam, that's fine. We will do it. Now, the mother, she identifies all of this and she starts giving him ajwa dates, and that's when things started taking a turn. All right. Mood swings, depression, cold sweats, because now ajwa is working against what's happening inside him. And then the mother realized that things are not quite straight, and so she goes to the Raqi, and then they check on the sun and all of it, and then they figure out what's happening, and they try to they confronted the wife, and then the wife told what is done and how it is done and what she has, because she also had to give the sahir something of him which was knotted up, right? So they had to go and then they had to take it out and they had to unfold the knots, and then of course, what do we expect, they got separated and so on and so forth, and alhamdulillah, he's fine now, he's absolutely fine now. But he is totally petrified with the idea of marriage, so he's not getting married anymore. But this is how it is. This is the extent to which you can go to. In some cases, also, what happens, and these are cases narrated by the Rockies, wherein the person who has done the sihr passes away. So now what happens is that if the sahir passes away, who do you go to and unfold the knots? Because only they know where they've buried it, right? So you're going to stay with this. Of course, if Allah wills, it will be the other way around. But then you will stay with this no matter how long, right? So these are the things that in case of sihr al-mahabba, what are the symptoms basically? Excessive love and passion. Excessive, all right? And we should, again, it must be threshold levels, but we can sense it, all right? Extreme desire for the intimacy, physical intimacy. There is impatience as well. All the time, you just want to get physically intimate, right? Lust at the sight of one's wife, and blind obedience to one's wife, if you're talking about the couple. So these are certain symptoms that are just there, okay? We also need to understand over here is that when the Sahar sets things into motion, all right, we have in the case of Sahar as well, it comes by jinns are taking over you. Now, this is the possession which is through Sahar, okay? But they wait for the right time to do this. They cannot just, okay, the Sahir does the magic and now the jinn is into the person's body. It does not happen like that. If the person who is sent to be affected, if they are in a state of extreme fear, extreme anger, or unawareness, or in extreme pleasure, that's when the jinn has a point of entry over there. Okay. Again, we will deal with that in much depth in the possession time, but giving you an idea about how this works. This sihr that we're talking about over here, in some cases, it also involves possession. Okay, for certain things, possession is required, but the possession is not manifest. It is not visible at all. Okay, now, okay, Takhil, false appearance of objects. Okay, this I think we will be knowing. Which one is this referring to? It's there in the Quran as well. Yes, Sister Nazia. That's right. Um, when you're talking about takhil, it's false appearance of objects. In the Quran, most common story, which one? False appearance of objects. Anyone, sisters? Okay. All right. Which prophet is the most spoken about in the Quran related to his story? Musa alayhi salam. All right. So what is the takhil over here then? False appearance of the objects. What did the entire festival day? What happened? The stick. All right. The stick, the snake. What the other sahir did. That's nothing but this. All right. Sahir al takhil is where you have the false appearance of objects. Now, in the magicians during Musa alayhi salam's time, that is what they had done. Right. Now you definitely the Sahir will have this contract in advance with the jinns for all of this to happen. This is these illusions, trickery, the magic that we talk about, right? So in some case it becomes at a higher level, right? When you're talking about this kind of magic, also we're talking about higher level magic, wherein it's even beyond the trickery and the illusion. That's when the jinns come into play. Okay, so here a fixed object would appear to move, right? Or otherwise, a mobile object is moving as per how the Sahel is doing. You have this whole big gathering and you sit and then you call people. Maybe not necessarily you are affecting people because of it, all right? But you are doing this for your own personal gains and you earn money of it. Okay, so this is another one. Next over here is okay, Sir Junoon, this is for lunacy. Now, as the name goes, the person is literally becoming a lunatic by the jinn. Okay, so this once the sahir has done his job, the jinn is going to nestle into the brain of this person, stomping on the nerves. Okay, they are actually hitting on to the nerves and the points that take away the man's reasoning ability because and in this case especially when you're talking about lunacy, the treatment plan is usually using audio tapes because it's very difficult to restrain the person in this case. We in terms of symptoms we are seeing forgetfulness, severe forgetfulness, absent-mindedness, confused speech, restlessness, not able to do the task. um, Also they just end up sleeping in places, and this is the worst form. All right, when you end up in sleeping in places where you, for example, you're walking on the street, you just lie on the street and go to sleep. All right, you are not bothered about how you look, what you're doing, nothing. You have just imagine a person who's completely lost his mind. How is he going to do that? Again, this involves a medical aspect as well as a jinn aspect. Like I said, since we're talking today about the jinn aspect of it, we are seeing the possible causes. Does that override the fact that it couldn't be an actual medical problem? It does not. You could definitely have a medical problem as well, but this is a possibility too. And how do we identify and detect that? We will come to it later. Okay. Humul now, Sihr al Humul, this is lethargy. Now, many people would also say that, okay, by default, I'm lethargic, I'm lazy. So, is that a type of sihr that is being done on me? It's a severe case, all right? To the point that the person is being driven into depression, seclusion to such a level that they do not want to see the face of anyone. Okay, constant silence also will not speak a word, not a word. Frequent headaches, quiet and lethargy. absent-mindedness, all of these are the number of symptoms. Okay, this is another way you are literally rendered weak from within. The person who wants the sihr done on you wants to completely seclude you from everyone else. Okay, so this is how sihr al-humul works. Now the next one, sihr al-hawatif. Okay, now hearing voices, this is done in two ways. One in dreams and next is in reality. Okay. When you're talking about dreams, when you're talking about in severe cases, even in reality, you actually feel these ferocious animals attacking you. All right. Or you hear voices calling out to you. For example, if my name is Aisha, so I feel people are just randomly, no one's calling me, but I can hear people calling me. I can hear people telling me something to do something. All right. Over a period of time, what will happen? I'll start losing my mind because I can't justify these voices. I can't even explain it to anyone. Okay. So this is to the point that you end up in the lunacy category then. Okay. Here, in case of Hawatif, though, you will have nightmares as well. In dreams, you see people are calling you. All right. Uh, when you're awake as well, you can hear voices. You don't know where they're coming from. No one else can hear those voices. You hear whispering, as in whispering, not the waswasa that we're talking about, the whispering that is the actual sound-based whispering that you're hearing too, right? You're constantly being suspicious of people around you. You are seeing dreams of yourself falling from very high places, or otherwise you're seeing dreams of you being chased by animals. All of this is hawadith. I mean, to the level they're messing up with the brain. Okay, so this is hearing the voices. This is another type of sihr. Understand, once again, reminding all of ourselves that these are the types of sihr that people does on us. The middle person that we're talking about, they go to the sihr and they say that, uh, suppose Aisha, all right, I want this kind of sihr to be done on her, and then the necessary things, the necessary deals are struck by the sihr with the jinns. Next, sihr al-marad. Now, illness. Okay. Here we are talking about the jinns. They're taking control of the organs of the body. Now, here is where all of this paralysis, epilepsy, severe pain, unexplainable illnesses, everything tried and tested, nothing works. Doctor says everything is in place. What is the issue? We cannot identify. Nothing is possible over here. We're talking about sihr al-marad. All right, wherein it could be as simple as a hand pain. So pain in my arm or pain in my back. No matter what we do, no matter what doctor we've shown it to, it does not go. And it actually tends to cripple your day-to-day activities, because that's the point of the sihr, right? So that it affects you in some way, in a negative way, of course. And slowly and steadily it starts playing on your mind then, because all the time you're just plagued by these thoughts. Why is this there? Why is it troubling me so much? Right? Epilepsy, then you're talking about even total paralysis or mild paralysis. And disability, here we're talking about uh, some of the Rockies have said that this child unable to open the mouth at all, right? She tries, not able to open the mouth. They try to, the doctors actually had to take their hands and try to open her mouth. It snaps back shut. Not able to speak, not able to drink, not able to do anything. And then they had to take her to the Rocky. The Rocky starts reading slowly but steadily. The effect starts wearing down. Again, in that, there are ways. If it's a very, very strong level of sihr or possession, it's quite difficult to wear it down. All right. So in this case, now, is it that all the time there is epilepsy, these fits or seizures, is it related to sihr itself? No. This is where the principle comes in, that we have to first eliminate all medical reasons. That's an absolutely essential point over here. Okay, the jinns work over here in different ways. Now, it depends on the severity to which the person wants to be, the other person to be affected. So here, the jinn may either just again play around with the nerves that are responsible for it to some extent or to a major extent. It depends. Okay, so only when all medical reasons are out of the way, then we see that still this is not explainable and it's there for a prolonged period of time, then we can consider the possibility of it being a sihr. Okay, it shouldn't be that anything. Okay, there's a seizure happening. This is jinns. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that for any of the categories that we're talking about. It has to be after all the obvious reasons are eliminated. What is left? Now we can look into it. Okay. Okay. Now, this sihr over here is related mainly to the ladies, okay? Because this is based on the istihada. Now, istihada is the bleeding that happens, the continuous bleeding that happens. This is apart from the menstruation that we have. So, non-stop bleeding without any reason. There's a hadith to this effect also, wherein it is the pinching of the shaitan and all of that. So, in this case, it has to be checked. Okay, because if this is done usually by people for the ladies, wherein they do not want the ladies to get intimate with their husband, or otherwise they want to be in a constant state of impurity. Though istihada, because of this very reason, istihada does not fall under impurities. Please understand that if it is identified that this is istihada, then you can might as well keep changing your undergarments and so on and so forth. But salah, you can offer salah, you can fast, all of that is allowed, unless until it is proven that it is menstrual blood. Okay, so this type of sihr is affecting, of course, the ladies when they have constant bleeding, which is apart from the menstruation. Okay, just a few more pending now. Sihr of impending marriage. Okay, this one is a little too common, I guess, even if it's there, even if it's not there. The common thing, if a girl is not getting married, go and get her checked. Someone has done magic on her. She must be possessed, or probably the jinn is in love with her. That is why she's not getting married, and so on and so forth. All right, those are the constant things that go on, which kind of is the case, but here it could be. If there is some, see, we can see the signs that everything works out till the very end. And all the time that happens works out till the very end, and suddenly it's just gone. Right? So in that case, it wouldn't harm to see if the girl is literally, it could be the girl or the boy. Okay, let's not just keep it only for the girls, it could be even for the boys. So if the individual is not getting married, then they can definitely go and get a level of ruqya done, because uh, this is affecting the mind basically. All right, it either affects the mind of the person who is getting married, or otherwise the people who have come to see that person. All right, they will affect them in any way such that they are not pleasing to each other and the thing doesn't work out, or because of all of the readings and the recitations and all of it, they are able to go to a certain level. Then you work on the next level wherein it has almost finalized, and then somehow you break it. Okay, that is there. And the symptoms, again, there's symptoms about anxiety, stomach aches. Okay, one thing over here is if the sihr is done on a person through the food, then either during this entire period of affliction or otherwise during ruqya, it will be manifest in the form of stomach aches which are not explainable. All right, which means that it is done through food, the sihr. So in this case also you have constant stomach aches, headaches, anxiety, pain in the lower part of the back, and so on and so forth. This is for sihr of impending marriage. Okay, for Rabt. Now, Rabt is basically, in English terms, it's called sexual dysfunction, but otherwise it's sexual frigidity as well. And though not quite in the open, let me be very honest, sisters, it is highly prevalent in most of the marriages. all right, wherein there is this sexual frigidity that we're looking at. And it is not only for men, it is for men and for women, and there are different types about it. In fact, when it comes to this sihr, this is the most commonly found sihr, I guess. Sihr al-Rabt and sihr al-Mahabba as well, most common out there. Okay, now in terms of men, of course, they can't perform. They will all be fine, but at the time of getting intimate, exactly, they can't do it. They can't do it at all, right? So amongst the types over there is that they want to be intimate with their wife, but the moment it reaches the point, they just cannot. They lose their vigor, right? And they cannot do anything, or they just don't want to have. Another form of this is there are types in this. There are around 5 types in the men, and again another 5 types in the ladies as well. They just don't want to have intimacy with a wife, or otherwise, though not wanting to be intimate with a wife is a different thing, but here you don't want to be intimate with a wife while you still love her and you desire her. You're not able to, basically. Okay. Or otherwise, you do not be intimate with them for long periods, prolonged periods, for no obvious reason. Okay. Though there is absolutely nothing wrong in the marriage, you just don't want to be intimate with each other. Okay. Women's case is different. They too suffer from rabt, which is done by some individual. Here, you either have no sexual feeling at all, which is the most prevalent type, or there's something which is blocking the private parts. It could be a bone, it could be a piece of flesh. All right. Going back again to what I said during Sihr al-Marad is medically all conditions are ruled out. Okay, that's when we can suspect that it could be sihr. All right. Or otherwise, both the husband and wife want to get intimate, but it is beyond the wife's capacity, and she cannot explain it. She cannot allow her man to get intimate with her. Right. There was another narration by the Rocky wherein the wife, she is yani, the young married couple, very young and just recently married, and they are not able to. The wife literally just shuts down her legs entirely. Okay, so much so that to the fact they have these discussions. Just told the husband, I'm not sure what is happening, what to do, how to do, why to do, why is this going on, and eventually, the solution that was there is that you drug me, you just make me unconscious, and then probably you can whatever you have to do because you're not able to. So such cases, sisters, it's very obvious something is going on, right? That cannot be even explained medically. So in that case, or otherwise in another cases, is related to a nazif, wherein you have a lot of bleeding, extreme bleeding, and the man cannot approach you. Okay, and then of course we have other 2 types also, which is again commonly seen: sihr for loss in wealth and business, and immorality, revenge, crimes, murder, evil, all of these things put together. Okay, now these types that I've mentioned over here, all of them have a treatment plan, but the base stays the same, right? With different improvisations. For example, you have to read Ayatul Kursi in all of those cases, but there are variations. In some cases, you have to make the patient drink certain water. In some cases, you have to actually only recite over them. They cannot drink it, right? So I didn't deliberately get into it, like I told you earlier, because we are not going to be becoming professionals in Raqis or anything of that sort. But if you want it as a guide for yourself, I can share that. It's a very small booklet. Like I said in the beginning again, I am only conveying information to us by explaining it a little bit. Otherwise, it's all in the books, nothing from myself. Okay. Now, there is much more again, a little bit of symptoms and all of that. I think we will stop because it's already 2 hours. So that will conclude the part on the types of sihr and the ways in which they cripple humans, the far-reaching effect and the extent to which they can interfere in one's regular life. All right. So this is the gist of it. Now, how are these symptoms and I've just compiled a whole list of symptoms, which we will have a look at in tomorrow's session, inshallah, because I want to touch base on something about magic. When I spoke about illusions and trickery, I deliberately left out a portion on the magic, which seems to be way beyond illusion and trickery, but it still happens. So what's the case with that? So we look into that. We look a little bit into music and how it's related to the jinn world. We look into possession, sleep paralysis, also evil eye, Rockies, Rukia, all of that. We'll look into that, inshallah, tomorrow. Now, just going through a few questions that we picked up from the form that you've submitted. Just randomly, I've deliberately left out the questions which are on possession, which were the maximum questions, because anyways, we'll be doing that tomorrow, inshallah, so we can have a look at that time. Do magic or an evil eye affect your pets instead of you to an extent when the animal certainly dies? Yes, of course. Yes. Jinns can affect animals, evil eye can affect them, and they can definitely die. Because, see, honestly, we can just detect it by the difference in their movement, the difference in their behavior, and so on and so forth. Okay. Apart from that, they cannot say much, so we cannot really figure out anything more than that. But yes, it is definitely possible they can get affected. Can a mu'min jinn harm us? Okay. I think I did not say anything about the good jinn so far. Right. Yes, mu'min jinn can harm us. I'll tell you how. In the case that we're dealing with the Rockies and all of it, they have come across many cases when they have interacted with the jinn inside the body. That's a mu'min jinn. When they ask them, "What is your religion?" they will say Islam. All right. They are now, in order to understand this, let's understand it in terms of humans. Aren't there Muslim humans who are also disobedient? We ourselves are disobedient. We ourselves are up to some evil at times, right? So similarly, the jinns also have this good one and the bad one. The good one doesn't mean that they're not going to do anything with the humans. They do. They do, all right? It could be that they are, but it could be on a very low level. They are not going to go all intense evil or anything of that sort, low level, but it is going to disrupt the person's life. So it is possible that a mu'min jinn can harm us because of its love for us, or because it has been sent by someone to do something, or it's just a little upset, just a little irritated at something we have done to them. So there are many reasons. Just think of it as a human good person as well, then probably it will make sense. Okay. Okay, how to be more conscious of the effect that the unseen world have in our practical life. I think the best way, and then that's the reason we are doing this 2-day session, is that if we know what it is, at least to a certain extent, we're not going to be that ignorant, right? Knowledge to a certain extent is going to help us at least understand what's going on. We can identify, we are at least in the no zone of something is going on. We deal with it, we see how we can tackle it. If we cannot tackle it, then we go on to next level. So definitely we have to uh, be conscious of this effect by not branding everything. This is jinn work. Someone has done sihr on me, or someone has put evil eye on me. And these are the common things that we often get into. Something doesn't go right, we don't blame ourselves. We don't say that probably, okay, I must have done something. This must be a test, or this must be a trial, or this must be a punishment. No, someone has put evil eye on me. Someone has done this on me, that on me. No, it doesn't work like that all the time. But we have to make sure that all of the azkar, everything is in place. How do we overcome cultural superstitions? Absolutely on the individual itself. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this at all. If we do not want to overcome it, if we do not keep that willpower, if we do not have that complete, it's very easy to say that I rely on Allah. Very easy to say. But when it comes to implementation and when things start unfurling in our lives, then what do? We go back again to those same superstitions. So as long as we do not control ourselves, we do not truly believe that nothing in this world can happen without the will of Allah, truly believe that, till then we cannot overcome it. Let's be very honest about it, right? If we tend to believe that, let's say, a sneeze or a black cat or something of that sort is going to destroy my day, then where's the reliance on Allah? Why I'm basically leaving all my affairs to a black cat who can't even take care of itself, right? So this is self-discipline. This is nothing but self-discipline. Is reciting manzil allowed to cure black magic? Okay, manzil is something which is a thing that has come down from the generations, wherein I think it's divided, the Quran is divided into 7 sections, and each manzil is given a name and so on and so forth. There is no sunnah or authentic evidence to back it up. When the Prophet ﷺ himself was affected with magic, did he say to recite the manzil? Just ask ourselves that question. He did not, right? He was affected by magic. Very simple ayat of the Quran, the 3 calls, that's about it. Then why is it that we are making new things about manzil and so on and so forth and trying to know? We saw so many of the types of sihr, none of them have a mention of manzil. It's going back to the ayat of the Quran, yes, specific ayat and all of that, but nothing divided as such that it has to be like this or it has to be in that. Okay. Okay. How would we know by ourselves if we or our spouse is affected on that? And you can trust it, especially when one is affecting and second one is just not talking with serious. Okay. It wouldn't harm to do a ruqya, right? A ruqya wherein the other person doesn't have to admit it. If one person is admitting it, then I think half the thing job is done over there. Then you can do a ruqya on the water. You can recite the ayat. If we're talking about spouses here, right? We're talking about spouses over here. Yes. So it's very easy for one of the spouse to recite the ayat and blow it on the other person's the head without that person knowing about it as well, right? So these are simple ways in which we can do it. And of course, if the extent this should be sufficient for evil eye, but of course, if you're going at higher extent about black magic or anything of that sort, then the only way over here is either to convince them when you yourself are 100% sure. Don't just go on a whim over here. That it could be that when whatever is a problem, if it does not have any other possible cause, in that case, then you are sure about it. It wouldn't hurt to go to an authentic Rocky and get a reading done, right? It doesn't hurt in any way. So these are the ways in which you can put it. Of course, if they do not, then we do our own way of reciting on them, recitation on them, without they even having to know about it. Water is the best way for them. Okay. Okay. Same as sihr al-marad. If the health issue is not identified, if it is not explainable, if it is something that is completely unheard of, no, I mean, it's been years now, haven't reached a solution, then you can definitely go ahead and perform the ruqya on yourself. See, there is one thing, ruqya by oneself can definitely be done. It is not that it cannot be done, all right? But ruqya by oneself, actually, it depends on, there are a couple of factors over here on the aqidah level, on the level of trust in Allah, and the level of obedience of that individual itself, all right, as to how is their daily life, how they're doing things in their daily life, are they involved in all the haramats this world, and when they want to do ruqya, then it's going to be difficult again for it to work. Okay, so it is directly connected to the righteousness and the obedience of the person who is doing the ruqya. Now, if it's a severe case, like we'll see in possession, if it's a severe case, then we will need help by a professional Raqi who is also authentic, because there are different ways. There is a procedure, just like a medical issue has a certain procedure. Ruqya also has a certain procedure, certain baths, certain oils, certain days, recitation, everything varies, right? So, if again taking it as a medical issue, you have a diagnosis followed by a treatment plan. That's what basically we're looking at. What is the use of knowing it. I'm assuming we're talking about the entire world of the unseen. Basically, this is what it is. If I do not know, okay. Again, going back to the analogy of the medical world, I have a fever. To a certain extent, as an individual, I know how to deal. Every individual basically is equipped with the knowledge of how to deal with a fever, right? You've got certain degrees, have these tablets, but then after certain period, if you see that the fever is not reducing, what do you do then? You know that this must be something else. This must be something which is not caused by normal things. So what do I do now? Now I need to go and reach out to a doctor and see what they can do, right? So this is exactly what's happening over here. Take for us, for example, ladies. We have got these awareness campaigns of breast cancer and so on and so forth. What are these awareness campaigns for? They make us aware of certain aspects. If we identify them, if we identify these symptoms, then we need to go ahead and look for the cause of the treatment plan, right? So only if we are aware of all of these things do we know that, okay, fine, there's a problem. I need to go and deal with it through the right person and not end up with any babas or anything of that sort who are going to further propel me into this world of magic, right? So that is the whole point of knowing everything about it. Okay, how do we get over the fear of unseen existence? Allah is the only one who can help us with this, right? Allah is the one, because this is something which is related to our inner selves. So we make dua for it, we read our adhkar, we know for a fact that nothing can harm me unless and until Allah wills for it. All of this that the Sahir does, all of these things, the jinns possessing, understand one thing, they can never override what Allah wills. If Allah has written it for us that a jinn has to possess us or a sihr has to be done on us, it will happen. Unless, of course, we have made dua in that direction, and duas have the power to change destiny, then we can get over it, right? So, this fear of the unseen existence will only come down with the fact that we place our entire connection, we connected back entirely to Allah, and we know for a fact that it is only He and He who can take me out of the situation and can protect me from the situation. More through the day or once the sky is completely due to black magic. I did not. Can whispers will occur all through the day or once the askar is completed? I did not understand the first bit. The second bit, can whispers occur due to black magic? Yes. Like we saw, it can definitely occur due to black magic. But again, the level of whispers is different. You actually hear these whispers telling you to do things. All right. These are not the thoughts that we have in our minds. This is different from that. Please understand that. These are not thoughts that we're having. This is different. This is actually somebody asking us to do something. Okay. All right. So those are the questions that we received, and I'll just take if there are any live questions. Meanwhile, sisters, if you want to move ahead, you want to exit the session, please go ahead and do so. I'm just dealing with the questions. So the main session for today is done. All right. Right. Heard about humans and jinns marrying and having children. Now, having children is not kind of possible. All right. No, it's not a myth. It's not a myth. It is there. Jinns and humans, they marry each other because, like I said, they establish contact through the contracts, right? And once they establish this contact, it is possible. And we will see in possession, wherein we are talking about how the jinns start getting intimate with the humans. All right. There is it is possible. Now, if the spouse is away, I believe we are referring to the question that we discussed that the spouse is not around us. Then, sister, it would be mandatory for somehow to At least, yani, we don't have to tell them that this is for this or for that or anything of that sort. Get them into the practice of reciting the Ayatul Kursi, the three Qul, Surah Fatiha, last two ayat of Surah Baqarah. Make it a mandatory for them. Let them make sure that they recite it. You don't have to give it the name of, oh, this is because I feel that we are affected by the evil eye or someone has done black magic. Just recite it. It is good for you. It is good for me. Just say it that way. Okay. Um, Dreams can definitely give an idea whether magic has been performed. Um, there are now the dreams, of course. There are dreams of different types also. You feel that these, especially ferocious animals, black cats and snakes, they're just engulfing you. All of that. These are red flags. Red flags if they happen over. Yani they're happening twice, thrice, four times. They're happening now. Yes, then that's it. Uh, as in if the Sahel is another human that is affecting animals. Sorry. Okay, let me just pick from here. Whiteness under his arms. Whiteness under his arms was for Musa alayhi salam. So that was the part that Allah gave him, right? Okay. In the case of Musa alayhi salam, we're not talking about anything that Musa alayhi salam did was a part of Sihr. We're talking about what the magicians did. What Musa alayhi salam did was from Allah. For Hifz al-Quran without any medical reason. We would not probably call that as sihr. It could be a possibility. I'm not aware of it, but evil eye definitely when we see people who are very interested in reciting the Quran and memorizing, but no matter what they do, they're not able to do it. Evil eye could definitely play up, and evil eye can play up to such an extent, like we're all aware of the hadith, it can cause death as well. Teenage girls having prolonged periods medically, if it is yani, sometimes when it's a little this way, right, till the pattern sets in. So that is again medical. If medically nothing has been given and it is just like that, then it could be something that you can check further. Sihr is done on a human, but it affects the animals. Oh, in that context, I am not sure about this, Sister Lubna. I am not sure about whether it would go as a converse effect, because usually in humans that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen that you're intending a sihr for someone, but it goes and hits the other person. It doesn't usually happen like that. Okay, so dreams can, okay, I've heard. Can anyone do black magic for not having someone a child? Of course. That's very common, very common. Wherein you're doing this magic on someone so that they do not have a child. Extremely common, and this is where the jinn actually sits in the area near the womb and all of it. You either get miscarriages, you've already conceived, but you're constant. I mean, it never comes to full term. You're always having miscarriages, all right? Or otherwise, you're not able to conceive at all. Husband, wife, everything is fine, no issues at all. It could be this, or otherwise it just could be that Allah is not willing for them to have a child at this point in time. All right, but it could be a reason. So doing one set of ruqya or anything is, there's no harm in that. I think I answered that. If that is whether what can be done. I think, yeah, I did that. Not attacking, but just present in dream. For example, snakes. Okay. Not attacking, but just present in dreams. If it's a constant occurrence, then it could have to do something with the evil eye also. Okay, but if it's attacking, then it's more so, and if it's a constant thing that is it's recurring, then it could have to do with sihr. Okay, but if it's just there, it could be because of certain psychological things. It could be certain fascination of subconscious levels playing up as well. So it could be because of that too. Okay. The hair, that was the hair whiteness under his arms. I'm not sure, Shah, what this which one are we referring to? If you could just elaborate. All right, this is if we, yeah, Sister Medea, this is what I told the time, that if the affected spouse is away, then we just ask them to recite We don't really tell them that this is evil eye, or for this I'm asking you to recite, or we are affected by black magic, so please recite. No, we just ask them to recite the three quls, the Ayatul Kursi, Surah Fatiha, last two ayat of Surah Baqarah. We ask them to recite this on a daily basis. And if possible, Surah Baqarah recitation covered over 3 days. All right? Just like that. We just say that it is for our well-being, it is good if we do this, and so on and so forth. So that would be the option over here if we are not able to convince them. We seeing the jal in our dreams, not really seen anywhere as such. I mean, we can't be sure if it's the jal because jinns take the shape of people even in our dreams, not only in real life, in our dreams as well. So they could come to us in terms of our loved ones in our dream, and they ask us to do something, right? So this could be an effect of sihr also, or otherwise it could just be our subconscious mind playing with us, right? See, in all of these things, we try to also see the fact, and we slowly but steadily realize that there's a very thin line between all of these realms. So the more we are capable of understanding what exactly is going on, and if we see a pattern, or if we see there is this consistency in things, that's when we should be aware. We should be knowing that something is going on. Let's have a look at it, and so on and so forth. Okay. So if we see the jal in the world destroying, this is something which is a given. It's going to happen. It has to happen. All right. So this is not perhaps related to Allah. All right, sisters. I think if we have, we will keep the group open if we have any more questions, so that inshallah you can post your questions over there, or otherwise you can respond privately to my message which I sent earlier. And you have any further questions, please go ahead. Handouts and all of it will be shared after tomorrow's session, inshallah. Tomorrow's session might extend a little more. I know today itself is extended by 20 minutes, but so that we are able to cover as much as this as we can. Sure. All right. Jazakallah khairan kathira, sisters, for attending. Inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, take care. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.